All right, welcome to the deep dive. Today we're digging into the Bitcoin ETF market.
Yeah, lots happening there.
Specifically, we're looking at a new SEC filing from Blackstone and also some wider trends in how money's flowing into these ETFs. And our mission really is just to decode what these signals might mean, for institutional Bitcoin adoption and ultimately for you.
It's a really interesting time. You've got Blackstone, this absolute giant in traditional finance, making what looks like its first real crypto move via an ETF.
Right.
But then, almost in the same breath, you see a big state investment board pulling out of the same kind of fund.
Yes.
Well, it's complicated.
Okay, let's break down that Blackstone move first. The filing shows they bought shares in BlackRock's spot Bitcoin ETF, IBIT.
Yeah.
The amount is just over $1 million. Now, Blackstone manages, 1.2 trillion, so $1 million bucks?
This is basically a rounding error, yeah.
Yeah.
It works out to about 23,094 shares of IBIT.
And where are they holding it?
It's in their alternative multi-strategy fund. That fund itself has about $2.63 billion in assets.
So an alternatives fund. Makes sense. Kind of fits the mandate.
Exactly. It invests in less traditional stuff.
Yeah.
So slotting a Bitcoin ETF in there, it's a piece of a wider strategy. Small for Blackstone overall, but, putting any amount into this asset class still says something. They're considering it.
And it wasn't their only crypto-related purchase, right? There were smaller ones, too.
That's right. Tiny amounts, really. About $6,300 in Bitcoin Depot Inc. That's 4,300 shares.
Okay.
And roughly $181,000 in the ProShares Bitcoin ETF, BIMO, almost 10,000 shares of that one.
Right, and BIO is the futures-based ETF, not the spot one like IBIT.
Correct. Tracks futures contracts.
So they're looking at a spot ETF, a futures ETF, and even a Bitcoin ATM company. Does that suggest maybe a broader look at crypto exposure, not just this one little dip with IBIT?
It certainly could, testing different angles. And this becomes even more interesting when you remember what Blackstone CEO Steve Schwarzman said back in 2019.
Ah, yes, the skepticism.
Right. He was pretty doubtful about Bitcoin as a currency, talked about needing controlled currencies, and basically admitted he didn't quite get the technology.
Yeah, found it hard to grasp.
So this small, cautious investment now, maybe it's testing the waters, could be clients asking, or maybe just a slight shift internally on the risk side, but definitely not a big commitment yet.
Absolutely. This is a firm built on private equity, real estate, credit, the traditional stuff.
Bedrock finance, exactly.
So that past skepticism makes even this small move stand out.
It really does raise the question, why now? Even this small step. Is it just client demand, or are they actually starting to see Bitcoin differently as an asset? Especially when, you remember, they had, $37 billion in ready-to-invest capital back in March?
Yeah, it wasn't like they couldn't afford more if they wanted to dive in.
Exactly. Lack of funds wasn't the issue.
Okay, let's switch gears then. The Wisconsin Investment Board. Big news there.
Big news. They sold off their entire holding of IBIT shares.
The whole lot. How much was that?
Over 6 million shares. Worth around $3.7 billion during the first quarter.
Wow. And they were one of the early ones, weren't they? The state fund getting into Bitcoin ETFs for retirees.
They were. Among the very first state funds to publicly show they were providing Bitcoin exposure like this. So, getting out completely now. Well, from IBIT at least, it's a total reversal.
Any idea why? Profit-taking. Change of heart.
Could be several things. Maybe their risk view changed, maybe a strategic shift in assets, or maybe they just got worried about volatility for a retiree portfolio. It's hard to say for sure from the outside.
And this is all happening while BlackRock's IBIT itself is just, hoovering up cash.
It's been incredibly strong. 6 weeks straight with no outflows since early April.
That's a long streak.
20 trading days of inflows. And since it launched back in January, the total net inflows are over $46 billion.
$46 billion? How does that compare?
Well, Fidelity's fund, FBTC, that's pulled in around $11.8 billion. ARK is about $2.8 billion. So, yeah, BlackRock's IBIT is really dominating the inflow picture.
So we end up with these conflicting signals, don't we? Blackstone, a traditional giant, carefully puts a toe in the water.
While Wisconsin, an early institutional adopter, jumps out of the most successful fund.
Yet, despite Wisconsin selling that huge chunk, the money keeps pouring into IBIT overall.
Exactly. Which suggests there's still really strong demand out there. It's very possible Wisconsin just locked in profits from being early while new money keeps coming in.
It really gives you something to think about, the split in strategy between big institutions.
Yeah.
What does it tell you about where things are right now with Bitcoin adoption and where they might be heading?
Hmm.
Are we seeing, some players developing careful long-term plans while others are making shorter-term, maybe tactical moves like profit taking? Definitely something to keep in mind as you watch this space evolve.